Plan to end Nashville's gridlock on the ballot. How much it would take out of your budget and why some say there could be hidden costs. Plus, driving out local competition. The unfair advantage for out-of-state rideshare drivers doing business in Music City. And repeat offenders preying on mid-state women. The disturbing trend and the change that could keep women safe. Fox 17 News starts now.
Middle Tennessee's only primetime news. This is Fox 17 News at 9, your Code Red station.
With the low pay we are getting paid now, you cannot support your family.
Continuing coverage tonight as Tennessee rideshare drivers say a pay cut last year is making it hard to pay the bills, and that's not their only problem. Good evening, everybody. I'm Scott Couch. Tonight, those drivers are working on a plan to bring to state lawmakers that would essentially ban out-of-state drivers from coming in here and picking up their fares. Fox 17 News' Caitlin Miller live downtown after speaking with a rideshare driver who was initiating this proposal.
Yes, Scott. Well, we spoke with a driver here in Nashville who spends hours a week on this Uber app trying to pick up rides to make a living. But he says that his pay has been cut in half over the last few years. So that's why he banded together with other drivers to form an organization to fight for a change and to fight for better pay. Arcangelo Wilson has been driving for Uber for years. Now he says he has to work 12-hour days to compensate for how much the pay has decreased over the last few years.
From airport to downtown, it used to be $15 3 years ago, $15 to $20. Now it's $7, $8.
Wilson explains part of the issue is that drivers from out of state can come to Tennessee and work, which he says is oversaturating the market. But what he says makes it more unfair is that states like Alabama, Kentucky, Georgia, and Florida ban out-of-state drivers from being able to take rides from there.
If I go to Kentucky or Alabama and I get a ride to take there, the only thing I can do there is food delivery. And nobody want to do food delivery because it pays less.
So Wilson says you can drop a passenger off in Alabama, but then he has to cross over state line back to Tennessee to be able to pick up a new ride. Fox 17 News reached out to Republican and Democratic lawmakers about this. The spokesperson for Democratic state representatives says that they are interested in listening to what these drivers have to say.
At the end of the day, they take the money back to the state. We, the people of Tennessee, are not benefiting, and they are outsourcing our job.
We also reached out to Uber and Lyft. Uber says Tennessee state law regulates the requirements needed to be a rideshare driver in Tennessee and adds they've seen more drivers in Nashville due to the population growth, not because Uber is incentivizing out-of-state drivers. Lyft says now drivers will make at least 70% of the weekly rider fares after external fees. Wilson says that they're working with an attorney right now to draft up a proposal to share with lawmakers. They're hoping to have this done within the next month, and then they want to have legislation. They say the goal is by the start of next session, which is in January. Reporting live from downtown, I'm Caitlin Miller, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Caitlin, thank you. Let's talk politics. A week from tomorrow, we will know the fate of Mayor Freddie O'Connell's transit plan. Nashville voters are essentially being asked to give themselves a sales tax increase by ½ cent to help fund traffic and public transit improvements that would ease congestion. Now, opponents to the mayor's plan say it's not going to work, and they claim there are hidden costs. Fox 17 News' Karen Aguilar in studio now with more on both sides of this debate.
Scott, for example, the mayor's office says this tax increase would cost you an extra 25 cents for every $50 you spend, which would average to about $70 a year per family. The concern for some is what will happen if the federal funds supporting this program fall through.
A 24/7 WeGo bus service, synchronized signals for less time at the red light, new sidewalks, and more, all part of Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell's Choose How You Move plan. But the sales tax will be increased a ½ penny if people vote yes to it, November 5th. Emily Evans is a former Metro Councilwoman and is on the committee to stop unfair tax. Evans believes a higher sales tax won't be the only thing impacting Nashvillians.
What pressure does this put on our general fund, on our property taxes and other sales taxes?
Evans points to these numbers that show while Nashville's current transit system costs around $136 million to operate, it brings in less than $11 million in revenue. Transit is funded by federal dollars. What if the presidential election leads to changes in that funding? Will the city ask for more property tax or even more sales tax?
So it increases the cost of living in Nashville, which we've already know is pretty out of control right now.
The mayor's spokesperson, Alex Apple, says that's not true. He said it actually saves money for car owners who have to maintain their car, pay for parking, among other things.
It's a chance to use public transportation if they want it, if and when they need it, to bring down their household cost of transportation.
Based on this chart from the U.S. Census Bureau, Evans says we don't need public transit the way the other major cities do. That Nashville isn't even in the top 25 in public transportation use. But the mayor's office says that it's dated pre-pandemic and things have changed drastically since then. And better public transportation would lead to increased usage.
In the past 12 months, we go just past 9 million rides.
Apple tells me no, people won't have to pay more for their bus fare. It will be locked in at $2 for 15 years. Reporting in studio, Karen Aguilar, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Karen, thank you. In your community, Gallatin Mayor Paige Brown shared some business recruiting news today during her annual State of the City address. Before a packed house at a Gallatin Chamber of Commerce luncheon, Brown announced that Target has agreed to open a store in Gallatin. No timeline yet. Now, other highlights include a balanced city budget, more than $12 million in the city's rainy day fund, and a $1 an hour wage increase for Gallatin City employees.
Jail does not rehabilitate anybody. It makes you better at what you do.
In Operation Crime and Justice, we are shedding light on a disturbing trend: violent repeat offenders who are attacking women in the Nashville area. Fox 17 News' Kylie Walker shares the concerns about what's happening and what can be done to address this problem.
In less than 3 months, 5 women in the Nashville area have been brutally attacked or killed by a stranger while out in public. Now, most of those incidents happened in broad daylight, and records also show that all men involved had some sort of violent past. The tragic murder of Alyssa Lockett while simply out exercising on a local greenway has ignited widespread outrage and a plea for action by local leaders.
Contrary to what people are saying, we are not safer today than we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Ken Alexandro, former MMPD officer with over 20 years of service, speaks out after Fox 17 News learned the suspect, Paul Park, has a history of violent crime. According to court documents, this includes a December 2017 domestic assault charge for grabbing and holding down his father by the neck, restricting his breathing.
90% of the crimes are committed by 10% of the population, and 80% of them are repeat offenders.
In August, 4 women, complete strangers, were brutally attacked on separate occasion by 2 men with extensive criminal records. Police say that's Jacob Thompson, whose history dates back to 2010, and Deontez Drew, a registered sex offender who was released from jail just hours before reoffending. Court documents show both men beat the women and tried to engage in sex acts before the survivors got away.
Unfortunately, especially when it comes to sexual assault, we know that rapists don't just do it once.
Lorraine McGuire at the Sexual Assault Center says sexual assault is a tragic reality of society that will persist until we address it at a higher level.
Instead of always focusing on what women can do to keep themselves safe, we have to start addressing the bigger problem and making this less stigmatized to talk about.
McGuire calls for increased education on the issue. Now, McGuire is sending me a list of resources for anyone who needs support. I'll put that on our website, fox17.com. That's also where you'll find a link to a self-defense class taught by the officer that you just heard from. He says that he teaches 1 hour of awareness training followed by 4 hours of combatives. For now, reporting in Nashville, Kylie Walker, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
In politics tonight, sign stealing allegations in Nashville's 50th District State House race as early voting enters the final stretch. Republican nominee Jennifer Frensley Webb says someone's taken between 15 and 25 of her signs during the campaign. She is trying to unseat State Representative Bo Mitchell. District 50 runs from Bellevue to Goodlettsville. Webb says virtually all the trouble she's had has been in Bellevue. Now, we have seen security video of a recent sign theft, but the company that has the camera wouldn't give us permission to show it to you.
This time they took the posts, they took my stands. You know, that gets into a lot of money and everything, and I just think it's very childish, and I think we need to all run respectable races.
Now, Webb blames her opponent for the sign thefts, but doesn't have any proof. Representative Bo Mitchell says he has done nothing with her signs and tells Fox 17 News that he's had some campaign signs stolen as well. All right, let's talk about your weather. I know it's late October, but you can't tell it by the temperature out there.
No, we had a temperature today of 80, and we're looking at 80s to be the story for the next couple of days. Things pretty quiet this evening here on Broadway. You can see a live look downtown. Still some folks out just before midnight on this Monday here. Temperatures comfortable. We're in the upper 60s with a mainly clear sky, and we are looking at a quiet and mild night ahead with temperatures only dropping back to about 60 for the overnight. Radar will stay quiet for the next few days, but eventually we are looking at the best chance of rain that we have seen in a month to move our direction going into Thursday. Lows tonight are right around 60 here in Nashville. We're in the mid 50s. McMinnville, Tullahoma, a little bit of cloud cover moving in as we head through the overnight in our western counties, which keeps the temperatures up a degree or two. Halloween night, I did mention the potential for rain. Again, the best rain chance we have seen in a month headed our way. We'll walk you through the timing in your Fox 17 Code Red forecast.
Also had relocating the problem, why a man living in Old Tent City downtown says destroying shelters built by the homeless doesn't make anything better. And how changes in the football power rankings impacts locals who bet on sports. In the high cost of homelessness, a long weekend of cleanup downtown at Old Tent City. Now this as city leaders continue working to find permanent housing for those who were told they'd have to move. Fox 17 News' Madeline Nolan shows us the progress.
Now, one of the ways the Office of Homeless Services can combat this issue is by providing housing pods, something we have reported on several times in the past. Finally getting the approval to move forward with them after years of sitting in storage. However, I spoke to several people experiencing homelessness Friday as Metro Police forced those with handmade permanent structures deemed unsafe to gather up what they could before they were demolished. One man who didn't want to disclose his identity pointed out the difficulties of getting temporary housing.
I've only known of one or two people that have got housing so far.
One or two people. And how many people do you think are on this list?
Probably 100.
100? And only one or two people?
One or two so far, yeah.
Wow. So they just keep giving you the runaround. Hey, we can't do this right now.
Pretty much. But I believe there's a lot of red tape involved as well. I believe social services wants to help us, but they don't have enough housing, or because I mean this is not the only homeless people in the streets of Nashville. There's people sleeping behind dumpsters, under benches.
The city only has 108 pods available, but we know that around 160 people call Old Tent City home. Once ready to use, the city would give them to different organizations rather than setting them up all together. In the meantime, people who had those built-up structures that were demolished were given tents by Outreach. In Nashville, I'm Madeline Nolan, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Tonight, we are reaching the halfway point in the NFL regular season, and Week 10 of college football is upon us. More shakeups in the rankings are expected week by week. Fox 17 News' Johnny Mathey shows us what this means for local sports gamblers and the tax dollars they generate.
We know football brings a surge to sports betting here in Tennessee. Just this September alone, $9.6 million were taxed from sports wagers, and that's up nearly $2 million from last September. And those tax dollars are thanks to more than $100 million more in wagers. We know the Titans are, well, dead last in their conference, but we are also an SEC country. Vanderbilt has played spoilers to Alabama and gave Texas a run for their money. And the Tennessee Vols, they're right in the thick of it, top 10 in the rankings. And with an expanded college football playoff, DraftKings tells us more games means more money.
College football went from 4 to 12. And so that certainly adds more games, and it adds them at a time of the year when I think the players are eager to see more playoff games instead of seeing some bowl games sometimes. But they're going to see those too. But, you know, some bowl games that are kind of meaningless.
And looking ahead, sports wagering data shows here in Tennessee that October and November are where the most bets are placed in the Volunteer State. Outside Nissan Stadium, Johnny Maffey, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.
Nice day today. We ended up right around 80 degrees, and next couple of days are going to be well above average, a good 10 degrees in fact. We'll start with a live look here from our Nissan Stadium camera. Again, a quiet night for us for this evening. As we start the week here, we are warm and we're dry through Wednesday. Then we get into Halloween, final day of October, and boy, we've really needed the rain for the month. It's looking like the final day we will have our best chance for showers in a month. And unfortunately, bad timing in that it'll be right around trick-or-treat time, it looks like. And into the weekend, right now, things looking okay. Showers, though, this is really going to be our focus Thursday into Friday. Pockets of rain, even a few rumbles of thunder, something we have not heard in a while. If you heard a few rumbles over the weekend, that would be the exception. There were a few pockets out there. I did see a couple strikes of lightning from the little rain chance we had on Saturday. Halloween rain, though, this is going to be a more widespread chance for showers. Everyone is looking like they may pick up some rain. Will just depend on where some of those heavier pockets decide to set up for us. But this will be along a cold front, and this is really truly is a bona fide cold front, meaning we're going to find a good rain chance out of it, and we will look at cooler weather behind the front. Trick-or-treat forecast 75 at 4 o'clock. Notice we've got showers throughout the evening hours, and again, a rumble of thunder can't be ruled out. Future track brings in some showers by midday through Middle Tennessee. This is 12 noon. A little bit better chance, though, moving in as we get closer to 3, 4, 5 o'clock early trick-or-treat time. Here's 5 p.m. Moving forward, you can still see those showers around through 8, 9 p.m. before we begin to dry out from west to east, and we'll see things not only drying out for Friday, but it'll feel a little cooler as well. Overnight tonight, right around 60 degrees. We'll look at a partly cloudy sky, staying mild. Won't be as foggy through the overnight. We may see a few patches here or there, but nothing like what we had this morning with the dense fog. Otherwise, temperatures will be pretty nice for tomorrow. Once again, right around 80 degrees for the afternoon. We're looking at mainly sunny skies later in the day. Couple clouds will be around early on, and again, expecting an overall warmer than average afternoon for Tuesday and for Wednesday as well. We'll have more on what it's looking like as we head into more into November. In fact, that in your Fox 17 Code Red forecast.
A potential shift in the political party that young men are identifying with. I'm Matt Gelka in Washington, and I'll have the story coming up.
Hi there, on Fox 17 News this morning, anchor Erica Glover. New numbers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show the number of walking pneumonia infections in children are skyrocketing. Which age group is seeing the biggest surge in cases? We'll answer that question Tuesday on Fox 17 News this morning.
In politics, every vote counts, and the under 30 voting bloc is getting a lot of attention these days from the presidential candidates. Fox 17 News' Matt Galka shows us why their support could be critical to winning the White House.
The former president on a podcast blitz this year, making appearances with Barstool Sports.
Did you watch the debate with Biden?
We did.
Did you think he did well?
No, I would say the most of the world would agree he did not do well.
And the big prize, Joe Rogan.
Wisconsin. They virtually admitted that the election was rigged, robbed, and stolen.
Trump's appearance on Rogan's influential show has 34 million views on YouTube since it was posted Friday night. And the goal is simple: capture the attention of as many young men as possible.
He's going to try to use the influencers to influence others.
And by going after these podcasters who have audiences that are young, he's trying to break into that young crowd.
The reason why we're here today is to make America great again.
Trump's rally in New York City was well attended by young men, the crowd seemingly backing up a Harvard study showing young males identifying as Democrats has dropped 7% since 2020, while young men calling themselves Republicans has grown 7% in the same time frame. Polling shows an election that could be defined by a gender gap. A CBS YouGov poll from this week has men breaking for Trump 54-45 over Kamala Harris. According to the poll, the vice president's edge with women is just as strong, with Harris winning over females 55-43. While multiple polls have the vice president likely winning the Gen Z vote, men under 30 are basically split between Trump and Harris, according to a poll from NBC News last week.
I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as a mother.
Harris has plenty of star power to help her overall with the youth vote, including endorsements from music superstars Beyonce and Taylor Swift. While pollsters try to figure out why there could be a shift to the right among young people, economic worries continue to be a persistent factor, with the direction of the country and economic opportunity being consistent worries for people under 30. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
U.S. intelligence officials tracking foreign efforts to interfere in our elections. I'm Atrell Nashar with what voters need to know.
We all celebrate with survivors when they're doing well, but there is something with cancer that we should know about its costs, according to a new study. I'm Liz Bonus. We're going to tell you about it just ahead.
A new report shows that Russia is once again trying to influence America's presidential election. Leaders say that Russian actors are using social media to spread false videos of ballots being destroyed. As Fox 17 News' Atra El-Nashar shows us, they are trying to destroy your faith in fair and honest elections.
Don't believe everything you see online. Sometimes easier said than done when content is made to deceive viewers. Like a video depicting mail-in ballots for former President Trump being destroyed in Pennsylvania. Intelligence officials at the FBI and other agencies tracking foreign election interference say Russian actors manufactured and amplified the video as part of Moscow's broader effort to raise unfounded questions about the integrity of the U.S. election and stoke divisions among Americans. And they say the intelligence community expects Russia to create and release additional media content that seeks to undermine trust in the integrity of the election and divide Americans.
I think a lot of countries are going to try to manipulate our voters. They're going to try to manipulate our elections. That's what they do.
Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance said Pennsylvanians should have confidence in the election, but said the U.S. shouldn't overreact to Russia's efforts.
And of course, we should push back where appropriate, but that's the big question, is what is an appropriate response to a country making social media videos? I'm not going to make a commitment to that sitting right here.
Microsoft also tracking this. Last month, the company issued a report detailing other inauthentic videos by Kremlin-aligned actors designed to discredit Vice President Harris and stoke controversy around her campaign. Chinese-linked actors, Microsoft said, also circulated content about conspiracy theories, not necessarily to help or hurt a particular candidate, but to sow doubt and confusion about the presidential race. Then there are efforts by Iran.
That includes recently reported activities by Iran to compromise former President Trump's campaign and to avoid an election outcome that it regards as against its interests.
Microsoft recently reported an Iranian cyber group is actively scouting election-related websites in a possible effort to find vulnerabilities.
Not only do officials expect these adversaries to ramp up their efforts the closer we get to Election Day, they also say it's not likely to stop after Americans are done voting. They fully anticipate attempts to sow public doubt about the final results of the election, too. In Washington, I'm Atrell Nashar.
In health news tonight, new research is shedding light on the high cost of a cancer diagnosis. Fox 17 medical reporter Liz Bonus tonight to explain how it's linked to lower credit scores and bankruptcy.
Hey there, everybody. These findings really show that a diagnosis of a potentially long-term illness such as cancer takes a toll on more than a patient's health.
I've had a little bit of a setback with one of my incisions healing.
For more than a year, we've been following Krista Power's breast cancer battle. She's now healing from reconstruction surgery. After chemotherapy and other treatments, she is now cancer-free. But she says being sick is expensive. She is self-employed.
I realized I had to surrender my clients and my business contracts and, working with chambers of commerce and that sort of thing. So it was this, in the midst of dealing with breast cancer and the physicality of it, it was this mental and financial hit of just being terrified.
Her fear comes from what this new research on cancer and its financial challenges shows. 2 studies comparing those living with cancer to those without now show those with the illness have lower credit scores and greater risk for financial bankruptcy. In some cases, those credit scores averaged 80 points lower than those without this long-term illness.
If people have, let's say, credit card bills or a mortgage payment and they don't pay them, that's going to affect their credit.
Olivia Smith is an attorney who specializes in elder law and Medicaid planning. She says the only real way to avoid this financial toxicity if you get ill is to plan for it.
I think thinking about it, potentially looking at what your disability insurance is, either through your employer or looking at a disability policy on your own, you can get those.
If you don't have those and you are sick, Olivia suggests you see if your healthcare system has a medical financial assistance program and ask them to refer you to local financial resources for cancer patients. Krista says she got lucky in her journey. Friends and family helped her through a GoFundMe account, but she also did find.
Because there are resources out there for sure, for breast cancer especially.
Healthcare providers conducting this research say this simply shows all of us that financial support needs to be part of patient care, combined with medical intervention. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Next couple of days will remain warm and dry for us here. We start off with a look at temperatures at the moment sitting at 66 in Nashville, but off to the north and west you can see a front that is beginning to drape into the central plains. It will reach us by Thursday, bringing us much cooler weather and again the chance for showers Thursday night, and then the cooler weather coming in by the end of the week. As far as temperatures go for tomorrow, we'll be in those low 80s here in Nashville, right around 80 in Columbia and Lewisburg. A little bit cooler out towards Crossville and McMinnville in the mid 70s, and that goes for Cookeville as well. A great reminder for you also, this Sunday we are setting those clocks back 1 hour. Daylight saving time ending. For tomorrow, sunrise right around 7:07. Compare that to the sunrise next Sunday. And then sunset for tomorrow evening is 5:53. We compare that to sunset next Sunday at 4:48. We'll talk more about how the beginning of November is looking in your Fox 17 Code Red forecast. Scott.
Thank you, Katie. Coming up, big handouts to help cities land major league sports teams. What happened when one city just said no? And AI as relief for disaster relief, how that works. The world is feeling a political struggle right now between establishment parties and those who want to limit those parties' control. This week on Full Measure, Cheryl Atkinson was in the UK talking with political analyst David Cowling about what sparked the trend there.
A lot of people, okay, let's talk about the United States. People are not necessarily completely divided along liberal and conservative lines. I think people kind of cross over depending on the topic. They've been moving back and forth. How would you define populism?
I think populism, if I could come at it this way, for most of my adult lifetime, British politics has been dominated by 2 political parties. And it was settled, and it was almost as if it was going to go on for 100 years. That's all been blown apart in the last 20 or 30 years. So much more volatile. Our politics has become something of a roller coaster. I mean, for the past 100 years, if you added up the Conservative, Labour and Liberal vote, the 3 main parties, if you added all their votes together, what was left was about 5%. The election just gone, 28% did not vote for the 3 main parties. Again, absolutely unprecedented, and to me, a sign that populism is making an impact and it's influencing people. It may not point them towards any particular party, but it's certainly making them think about issues in a way that the established parties are getting increasingly concerned about.
If you'd like to hear more about populism in Europe and here in the U.S., watch a replay of Cheryl's story at fullmeasure.news. And of course, you can watch brand new episodes of Full Measure every Sunday morning at 7:30 on Fox 17.
Coming up, we'll talk more about the beginning of November, how we are trending as far as temperature and rain chances go.
Also add saying no to big cuts to land pro sports teams, how it worked for one city. Despite making huge profits, the owners of professional sports teams continue to ask for handouts from taxpayers. Tonight in Spotlight on America, our Chris Daniels shows us what happened when one city just said no and what other cities can learn from that.
There is a certain irony that a National Hockey League franchise is launching its season in Utah, hundreds of miles from the desert where it intended to be, after a few civic leaders believe they slayed a Goliath of a proposal.
Why didn't you like this deal?
Oh, so many reasons.
Lauren Kuby lives in Tempe, Arizona.
You're a sports fan.
I am a big sports fan.
She looked at this parcel and examined the request from the Arizona Coyotes to spend millions of taxpayer dollars to build a new sports arena here.
And then they were getting property tax relief for 30 years that was going to amount to over $500 million.
Was this just a garbage dump that was going to get renovated?
We can only grow up. So this is the last big chunk of land.
There's nobody who loves sports more than me.
And that was after the Coyotes were evicted, kicked out of another arena by Glendale, Arizona city manager Kevin Phelps.
To this day, our city still has spent more money per capita building a professional sports team, an arena, than any city in the United States. I think the frustration that we had is we knew that we were subsidizing this franchise.
You have to demand accountability from your elected officials.
Kuby, a former Tempe council member, was part of a grassroots coalition outspent by the NHL team in a special election last year, but still convinced voters to take a pass.
I mean, this was a 12-point margin plus kind of defeat for them.
The public financing story here in the desert is a rare one. Spotlight on America has chronicled how multiple cities and states have handed out hundreds of millions of dollars to professional sports franchises in recent months, from Nevada to Oklahoma and New York to Tennessee.
You know, it's hard to go to the ballot and say, we would like you to give tax money to the local rich guy.
Neil DeMoss, who wrote the book called Field of Schemes, has studied them all.
State legislatures vote on stadium subsidies. It passes like 95% of the time, whereas with the general public, it's closer to 50%.
And I think it can be easy sometimes to fall into that trap or to believe the economic impacts.
Phelps says Glendale is making more in tax revenue with concerts and smaller events at the city's arena.
So I want to get that straight. You're saying as a city, you're making more money without the Coyotes than with the Coyotes.
That is correct.
The Coyotes, rebuffed by Arizona cities, moved to Salt Lake this year. Phelps says he does not look back.
I would say don't walk, I would say run.
A lesson, he says, that comes from a city and a region that said no. I'm Chris Daniels for Spotlight on America.
The Arizona Coyotes were purchased for a reported $300 million back in 2019 and moved to Utah after being sold, listen to this, for $1.2 billion earlier this year. That's a lot of coyote feed, Katie.
Yeah, it's a lot. Let's talk about the nice weather in the next couple of days. Again, we're warm, we are dry. Tomorrow morning, waking up with a little bit of cloud cover, but mild temperatures and not as foggy. If you woke up this morning and was driving into work with the fog around, I do not expect that to be the case for tomorrow, but we will have a little bit of that cloud cover around and temperatures holding in those 60s. A little later this week, on Wednesday to be exact, we are going to be looking at a near record high. The forecast is 84, record is 86, so it will be close. Set back in 1937. And as the front continues to march closer to us by Thursday, we will expect not only temperatures to rise, but the wind to pick up a little bit as well. We get more of a breeze, and that could help push our temperatures more into those middle 80s for Tomorrow, more so, I would say, for Wednesday. As far as our rain chances go, the last big rain that we had was, of course, leftovers of Helene, and since then we have had little to no rain for the month of October, and this is the way it's looking now. So this is the percent of normal rainfall over the past 30 days. So this takes what we've got in the rain gauge and we average that, or compare that, I should say, to our average for the last 30 days. And easily you can see here we're parched. We're looking for rain. And I mentioned that chance for showers coming in as we head towards Thursday, but overall the pattern looks to be shifting a little more into an unsettled pattern, meaning that our rain chances will be going up potentially here. This is the 8 to 14 day rain outlook, and this takes us from the 5th of November through the 11th. And the chances for showers here are going up across a lot of the country. In fact, in need of rainfall, especially the eastern half of the U.S. But that does include much of Tennessee, where we could be looking at above average rainfall. And as far as temperatures go, we continue to see above average temperatures, and that would be again for the 5th through the 11th. So warmer than average conditions, which, by the way, are average for this time of year, right around 70 degrees. So we take a look at your 7-day forecast. Just needed to move that Halloween icon there. Forgot to do that. Temperatures are sitting in the 80s Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday, we do see a nice little cool down, and then we're right back up into those 70s, close to 80 degrees. So again, our average this time of year is about 70, even 69. So much warmer weather expected for us for the next several days, the exception being Friday.
Using AI to help those in need. I'm Jeff Harris in Washington. Coming up, how hurricane victims are getting much needed relief deposited right into their accounts.
Plus, startling images ahead of the elections. The ballots actually burned. Continuing coverage now, artificial intelligence, a tool that some people use to help with a variety of tasks. And now this technology is being used to help locate significant pockets of hurricane damage. Fox 17 News' Jeff Harris tonight shows us how this technology, AI, will help to get recovery money in the hands of those who need it most.
It starts with AI. The nonprofit called Give Directly uses a Google-developed AI to find areas with high concentrations of poverty and storm damage. Once that's done, they invite people in those areas to enroll in the program. According to ABC News, a Google team uses its machine-based learning tool to narrow down the worst-hit areas by comparing pre- and post-disaster aerial photos. Give Directly uses another Google AI tool to compare those findings with poverty data and, in this case, storm damage. It then sends the target areas to an app which invites users in those locations to then enroll.
It takes a year to almost 7-8 years before a person in the disaster neighborhood or an area actually gets the funding or relief support from the government. The Google data can help essentially identify these people, that these are essentially people in need, and let's provide them some support.
Now, a senior program manager at Give Directly told ABC News their approach is meant to deliver aid in the most streamlined and dignified way possible. The nonprofit is planning to send up to $1,500 to around 1,000 households in North Carolina and in Florida. Those payments are expected to go out this week. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Ballots burned just ahead of the election. The growing concern about that tonight.
Hi there, I'm Fox 17 News This Morning anchor Erica Glover. New numbers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show the number of walking pneumonia infections in children are skyrocketing. Which age group is seeing the biggest surge in cases? We'll answer that question Tuesday on Fox 17 News This Morning.
In politics tonight, an investigation into ballot boxes being set on fire in 2 different states. Police in Vancouver, Washington say someone attached a device to the outside of that ballot box this morning, starting the fire. You can see the charred area on the outside. It's believed the flames burned hundreds of ballots inside. In Portland, Oregon, a similar fire happened at another ballot box. No word on exactly how many ballots were burned or who was behind these fires. Fox 17 News is committed to bringing you in-depth analysis of all the key issues leading up to November 5th. And as soon as the polls close that night, Fox 17 News will bring you the latest results on the key races, both on air and online at fox17.com. Looking ahead to tomorrow, Game 4 of the World Series. Our coverage will begin at 6 p.m. right after our 5:30 newscast. The Yankees trying to get back in this thing against the Dodgers. If the Yankees are able to win that game, then Game 5 will air right here on Fox 17 Wednesday night at 7. If needed, Game 6 will be on Friday night, again at 7 p.m. Now, of course, Saturday's another big day for college football here on Fox. We've got Ohio State and Penn State both in the top 5 in the country. That game will start at 11:30 in the morning. Then Kansas State taking on Houston, a Big 12 battle at 2:30. And if the Yankees make a major comeback, it will force a Game 7 in the World Series on Saturday night, and that game will begin at 7 if we get there. And, of course, we have NFL for you on Sunday. We've got a doubleheader. We've got the New England Patriots in town to play our Titans. That kickoff will be at noon. And then we have the Detroit Lions facing the Green Bay Packers. Those guys are number 1 and 2 in their division. That's a 3 o'clock start here on Fox 17. We talked about it in the earlier newscast. The weather should be decent for the football game and for you to be there to call the forecast live.
Yeah, and by that point, temperatures will have rebounded back to about 80. So
that's kind of hot for football.
Still kind of warm, especially this time of year. Won't complain too much, and the other shoe will drop eventually. So we'll see one day where we've got a brief cool down, 70 degrees the day after Halloween.
And 70% chance of rain on Halloween. We're going to be keeping a close eye on that. Katie and I will see you tomorrow.